Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and my 12 days of Christmas. Today I'm going to be talking about app-assisted games. Some of you out there may very well say apps do not belong in board games. Board games are meant to be analog, and that's perfectly fine. You can stop watching now and my feelings won't be hurt. But app-assisted games are growing in popularity. That's just the world we live in. So I thought I would throw out some of my the ones that I have appreciated playing. Most of these you can't play without the app. There is a handful and a big one that you don't necessarily need the app. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 12 is First Martians: Adventures on the Red Planet. So this is essentially kind of a follow-up to Robinson Crusoe. It was meant to be the same type of game. It's from the same designer and Portal Games and Ignacy, and survival essentially. Whereas Robinson Crusoe, you started on an island with nothing and had to work your way up. Here you start with everything, but everything is slowly failing throughout the game, and you have to keep it going long enough to survive. It was a very interesting game because it felt very much like Robinson Crusoe, but a little bit of the flip side of things. The biggest problem with this one is that there are some glitches in the app, and this is kind of where people are saying, what happens if people stop supporting an app? Will I be able to play the game? Well, the answer is yes. You can still play the game. The app is still available to download. There's just going to be like a picture missing and things like that, or obvious typos in the app, but the game is still playable. Obviously they wouldn't still be selling the game if it wasn't playable, but it's an interesting game. If you're a fan of the Robinson Crusoe board game, this is one that you might want to check out, and you can usually find pretty cheap, and the app is free to download. So there you go. Number 11 is Descent: Legends in the Dark. Now, this one, the app works perfectly fine, but there's a reason that I have placed it at number 11. That reason being is that I honestly don't feel like Fantasy Flight hit their potential with this being an app-assisted game. So Descent 2nd Edition was initially, you had to have an overlord character, a dungeon master, and then they installed, after Mansions of Madness's success, they created a companion app where you could run through different campaigns from what came in the physical version of the game. You had to have the physical version to play, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it really was all just about run into a room, defeat all the monsters. There was a puzzle here and there, but that was about it. Here comes Descent, where it's fully controlled by the app, the bosses and the monsters and the villains and all that stuff. And I just felt like they really didn't do anything different. Yes, there was an interesting storyline. Yes, there was this crafting mechanic, but it felt kind of fiddly at the end of the day. And I really still just felt like I would go and find the monster in whatever room, and I would stand there, and he would attack, and he would, I would attack him, and he would attack back, so on and so forth. There wasn't any like strategic movement involved. They weren't saying, all right, like he moves here, and so you move your miniature. It was really just everybody gets in a room, stands in one spot, and fires off from where they need to be. I'm hoping that they follow up the expansion to Descent: Legends of the Dark, which I can't remember honestly now if it's standalone or not. I'm hoping it's standalone because I actually culled this game from my collection just because it wasn't hitting for me, and it was big box and an expensive game to keep around if I wasn't happy with playing it. But I'm hoping that they kind of are going to utilize the app that much more in the expansion. Number 10 is Chronicles of Crime. So many people out there would put this at the top of their list, and the game is a great game. It works just fine. There's no problems with the app or anything like that. And Lucky Duck is committed to supporting their apps because they are one of the few companies that's mainly producing games now that are app focused. So they are kind of, fully on board with the app assisted games. Chronicles of Crime is one that you will use a QR scanner to be able to say, all right, this is the card I want to interact with, so on and so forth. I want this item, and I want to ask, say, Hacker Eric about it. And so you scan both of them, and then it tells you, gives you the narrative. It also has this really neat mechanic where you can go into a room and investigate it, and you can see here these kind of VR goggles that you could buy to put onto your phone. If you don't have them, it still works, but you basically would hold up your phone, and it has that kind of motion technology that as you spun your head around and the phone around, you would look around the room. So you actually would have to stand up and look around the room and look for clues and things like that. And it was a very neat trick. For me, I don't know what it is. I suck at this game. I cannot play Chronicles of Crime and be successful with it. So that's really the only reason why this is not higher on the list. It's simply because of the fact that I was never, ever able to figure out the crimes. But some people love this game, have a blast with it. And so if you're looking for something with that mystery, solve a mystery type of thing, this is definitely one to check out. Number 9 is Last Defense. So Last Defense is a very simple cooperative game by Funko, where you are essentially this ragtag group of people from the neighborhood. No special powers, nothing like that. And you're basically just trying to run around and pick up items that you can use to create technology that can then defeat the monsters. What the app does is it gives you a timer of sorts, and it starts throwing the monsters out and then moving the monsters around. So they're not just static, but there's no dice rolls that needed to control the monsters or anything like that, or it may like block off a location. So it just keeps it interactive while creating pressure, because there is a timer. It's a very quick game, and I believe it's meant to only be like 20 minutes, and so that 20-minute timer keeps ticking up, and you start on the board and there's actually no monsters on it, so you can they're coming. The news is telling you it's coming, and there's some decent background music, so it just kind of works well. My kids really enjoy this one because it's very simple, very straightforward to play. So this is a good family weight one. I haven't seen it in stores for a while though, so I'm kind of curious as to whether this is still something you can purchase. Number 8 is the Unlock series, Star Wars, the Star Wars version being my favorite, but this one is another one that, it's like a mystery, it's like an escape room that you need to have an app to tell you, all right, here's the secret number I found, and it tells you what next card to draw. That's really all there is to it, but again, it kind of keeps track of your score, it can give you hints, and that's always really nice, because I've played some escape room games where I completely get stuck, and it's either like some text that they put in the back of the rule book that's supposed to be a hint, and it never fails that you end up reading all of them anyways, or the text doesn't make sense and you're still completely stuck. This one can give you hints progressively. It gives you a score at the end of the game based on how many hints you had to take or how long you took, but for the most part I could care less about the score. This is just a neat little game. It's all card based, so I prefer to play it solo. That way I don't have to share looking at the card with anyone else. But again, you can't play this one without the app, because it's going to tell you, all right, draw this card. You start with all the cards face down. It's going to tell you, all right, draw this card. What do you see? What number are you looking for? Combine these numbers. Combine these two cards. It's going to create a 3-digit number. Put that in. Blah, blah, blah. So on and so forth. Number 7 is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. I also am including were words in this, because both of them, they're from the same company, Beezer Games. And it's really the difference between, trader mechanic, find the trader in the group, or Werewords is, I actually prefer Werewords more. It's more of a kind of 20 questions type of game where you mix in a few of the, like, you know, the werewolf player powers. But essentially in Werewords, you're just asking yes or no questions, and the person has just these discs, these check marks or X's, and they'll slide them out for you when you've gotten it. And you know, but then there's always someone who knows what the word is, but they're trying to, you know, keep everyone, they can't just like give it away. And then there's the werewolf who knows what it is but is trying to get you to say the wrong word, things like that. Anyways, or there is Ultimate Werewolf. Now, this game can be played without the app. You just simply have to have someone who is sitting out from the game saying, all right, you know, that makes the assignment, or actually the assignments are made by passing out some cards, but then it'll say, all right, you know, werewolves, lift, everybody put your head down, werewolves, lift up your head. The fact that the app does all that for you means that everybody can play. I have had to play the game where I have had to sit out and, you know, be the person who kind of manages the game, and it's just not nearly as fun. So this is a fun little game. It's a party game, obviously, better in large groups, and better with the app. Number 6 is Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth. So this is by Fantasy Flight, and this came out before Descent, after the success of Mansions of Madness. So really, this app manages the AI for you, keeps track of your campaign. There's like a fog of war mechanic, so you can't see exactly, you know, the terrain ahead of you, but it kind of roughly tells you where you're going to be going. It has this threat meter at the top, so the longer you take, more threatening things may come out, and it just works. I've always felt like the AI really worked well with this one. There is a little bit of a mechanic where if you are using the right weapon, or you know, you might get lucky and get a 25% bonus, things like that. It just calculates all that for you. So this was one that's just a really good game. You can't play it without the app. There's no Dungeon Master mode or rules for that type of thing. But again, the app is free to download, free to play, and it's a great little dungeon crawler that is fully cooperative. Number 5 is Destinies, Time of Legends Destinies. So this is by Lucky Duck Games, who are the same people who do Chronicles of Crime. And there's very much the same mechanic that you're scanning QR codes to say, all right, I'm using this item, or I'm asking this person about this item, things like that. Destinies, however, is not a crime scene so much as a kind of an open world roguelike RPG maybe. You're basically told you have a destiny, you're given a very minor clue towards it, and you are trying to walk around and discover clues. So there is that, you know, a bit of mystery around it. This one is a great little game. You get a lot for not a huge price tag. The miniatures are tiny, but I think that works just fine. And this one, the app works so well that you almost don't need to, and I have fallen prey to this, where you're playing and it'll tell you, okay, flip over this card and put this token down here to just say it's a point of interest. But really, when you're looking on the app, you can see all that information there. So I'll get playing and I'll realize I have not done any of the physical stuff. I'm basically just playing on the app. I still need the physical part of my hero board with my items and my experience points, tracking those and things like that. But honestly, you could cut out half the game and remove a lot of the fiddliness if you just concentrated on the app. So it really does, you know, you cannot play the game without it, but it's a great little game, fun little mystery. It's a different take on that kind of RPG-like game. And I spoke the whole time without showing you guys the pictures. There's not a whole lot here, that just kind of showing you that there are apps. Number 4 is almost kind of one of the originals. I know it was not probably the original, but I think this was easily one of those games that was the first to have major success while using app only. So Mansions of Madness uses an app to control the AI to procedurally, or not procedurally, it's all mapped out ahead of time, but show you the map, and so that if you go to a door and it says it's locked, eventually when you unlock it, then you find out what it is, so it holds on to that mystery. There is, a threat meter and a mythos, and it just works so well. This series of games changed my life as far as the board gaming hobby. This Mansions of Madness, Descent 2nd Edition, and Star Wars Imperial Assault. When I found out that I could play these without having to get a group together and worry about getting over to everyone's house and things like that, that I could just sit down and play on my own and still have that same immersive experience with miniatures and that dungeon crawl like atmosphere, I all of a sudden became all in. So this is definitely a theme that you'd want to be in or be into, the kind of Cthulhu Arkham theme. But if you have any interest in that theme, Mansions of Madness is pure gold. The only negative thing about the game is the miniatures. They have drastically improved their miniature line since, but haven't updated the miniatures for Mansions of Madness. But other than that, the app works perfectly well. There's plenty of downloadable content, so even if you have just the core game, there's lots of content that you can get out of the app. Number 3 is essentially all of the Key Enigma escape room games. So I already talked about Unlock and needing to use the app. These are escape room games that are heavily themed, and they go above and beyond just having an app. So when you open up one of these boxes and they have various sizes and intensity of the games, there's a lot of production value in these. They have created pamphlets and ID badges and stuff like that, this physical stuff that you're going to get in the box. But then after that, there is an app that you're going to get into and start accessing. It's a web-based, so you don't have to download a companion app. But there's also, they've created websites that you can go to or email addresses that you can email to, and then it's going to give you a reply back. It's just incredibly immersive. And like I said, they have gone so much above and beyond just having a companion app that runs the AI. This is like full-fledged websites that they've created for example, Leiston Museum. You can go in there and it's going to have several pages. It's going to have email address you can email. It's going to have like a section for workers where if you figure out what your ID badge is of the person who's you're trying to find, you can punch it in and it takes you further. So it's just so immersive. It's so impressive. These are not overly expensive games. So if you are looking for that incredibly immersive experience of an escape room game, Key Enigma is definitely one to check out. They have, again, a wide range of the amount that you're getting. They have some very small box ones that are meant to be played in like an hour and a half, and they have other ones that have maybe 4 envelopes in them, and you really probably would need to take 4 play sessions to get through all of them, because each envelope is going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours. So check them out if you're looking for an immersive escape room experience. Number 2 is XCOM the board game. So it's hard to really compare XCOM to anything else because I don't know of any other board game that works like this, and I'm sure there are, but XCOM adds this real-time element, so there's this timing pressure, but each person has a unique job of things they have to put out on the board or decisions they have to make, flip over cards, and the app runs all of that and puts that pressure on you. And it's such a frenetic 2 minutes of the app phase, and then after that it slows down and you can take your time and take a breath and work through the combat and things like that. But that frenetic 2 minutes where you're like, all right, navigator, tell the planes where they're going, and commander, you know, which troops are you sending in, and this and that, and you know, one person's pushing the buttons. What's our budget for this one? Are we going to go over budget and all that? You know, it's just very intense. It's very pressure filled. You definitely have to be ready or into or want that type of experience. But if that is something you are wanting, that pressure of a real-time experience, or you're a fan of video game, or you're just looking for something like sci-fi, this game to me feels like Independence Day the movie in a board game. I know it's based off of a video game, but when I sit down and play it, I feel like I'm playing Independence Day the board game. And again, can't be done without the app, because the app is the one throwing all this stuff at you, telling you which person goes next, yada yada yada. And last but not least, this is one that you can play this game without this app. And this actually is not a full-fledged app that runs the AI or anything like that. This is purely a companion app. Again, it's purely optional, but I don't play this game without it. And that is the companion app for Zombicide Black Plague. So again, this is a companion app, purely companion app. It does not run the AI. The AI is very simple to run in Zombicide anyways, but when in a game that requires you to manage 6 characters and you primarily play solo like myself, this game removes all of the player dashboards. It also removes, if you so choose, the zombie, you know, the spawn cards for the zombies, all of the item cards, basically, you know, all the cards, all the player boards, all those little tracking tokens, all of that. You can sit down and play a game of Zombicide with just the board and the miniatures. It doesn't show you any type of map. It doesn't show you anything about open doors or this and that or where they're spawning. It simply says it's just a digital version of the cards and a digital version of the player boards. But it makes it so simple to sit down and play a 6-player, 6-hero game of Zombicide solo. And this companion app alone is one of the reasons that I have held on to Zombicide Black Plague and Green Horde throughout, you know, Invader, 2nd edition, Undead or Alive, which, you know, I just chose not to back. And I did back Marvel Zombies because I feel like it's a very different game, but this is my Zombicide game, because I can sit down and play this game 6-handed, essentially. So simple. Cuts out so much of the fiddliness of playing with 6 players. I cannot recommend this playstyle enough. So if you have Zombicide and only ever get it out because you've got 3+ players to play with, or if you've ever been considering purchasing Zombicide but you're scared about running 6 players because you want to play solo, check out this companion app. For me, it's a no-brainer. It can even do dice rolls for you. I tend to like to roll my physical dice, but there's an option to turn on dice rolls, and you just click it, and they go. So there you go. That is my list of my top 12 app-assisted board games. Again, this is a trend that is growing. Companies like Lucky Duck Games are producing most of their games as app-assisted. So I know there are some analog truists out there, and that's fine. There's still plenty of analog games out there, but for those of you who are interested in seeing where this space can take you, check out this list. If you've been enjoying this list, please consider giving these videos a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.